so much. Wow, what can I say? Nadeem, Naveed, you guys have really outdone yourselves. Before I get started, I want you guys to think about one thing. You're sitting here today and you're learning about the future, a future that doesn't exist right now, but a future that you will create. Think about that. The future that the whole world, the next Uber, the next Google, the next Facebook, is going to be created by somebody in this room. That's important. So we're going to talk about the world in 20 years from now, the world in 2038. You guys will probably be somewhere between 30 years old to 35, maybe in your 40s. You'll be in your jobs. Maybe you've started a company. Maybe you've started in several companies. But things are going to get weird. I can tell you that much. Because as we move into all of these different technologies that we're seeing right now, it's going to get really strange. So I'm going to start with explaining to you why I'm up here today. My vision, my purpose in life is to inspire and educate you, the next generation of young dreamers, to think and act like entrepreneurs, really building the future, and to do so in a socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable way. This is the only way we can have a future together as an Earth. We need to be socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. So everything you see here, put that into perspective. So, with that, check this out. This should have volume there.
¿Quién soy yo? No es lo que quiero decir. ¿Para dónde voy? No. Puedo volver a empezar. Olvídalo.
Estoy presente ahora. Me amo. Estoy libre de mi ira. Estoy libre de mi tristeza.
Concentrate on one facet at a time.
Habla español.
Adiós.
Imagine about 10 years out from now, instead of using your cell phones, you're going to have a pair of glasses. And that pair of glasses will compute the world similar to this. We will have three-dimensional computing. And hopefully the world doesn't end up like that, but it's a possibility. The evolution of technology has always maintained a steady linear growth. That means it just grows year over year in 10%, 20%. Over the last few years, we've seen a rise 30%, 40%. When we had the introduction of the first internal combustion engine, and then the vehicle, and then the computer, these are all linear growth. And what's happening right now in human history is we're hitting this exponential growth, where instead of growing by 10 times, or 10%, we're growing by 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And we're at this curve right now in human history where all the technology goes straight up. How many people know what all of these technologies are? 5G, edge computing, IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, VR and AR. These are all fundamental technologies that are in their nascent stage, meaning they're right at the very beginning, but they're all coming together at the exact same time. So if you think about, before we had, the car, that was a very big technology for 50 years. The cell phone, very big technology for the last 20 years, 10, 15 years. But let's take a look at the progression of these technologies. And I don't know if you can see this, but this is the time it took for 50 million people to adopt these technologies. Automobiles, it took 62 years for 50 million people. The television, 22 years. Cell phones only took 12 years. YouTube took 4 years, Twitter 2, and Pokemon Go took 19 days to hit 50 million users. Everything is accelerating at a pace we've never seen in human history. So with that, I'm gonna keep going at a pace because I only have a short amount of time and a lot of content. Here's a quick slide of a car race. They're changing one tire, okay? This is 1920. Now, today, 4 tires in a tank of fuel. 2.1 seconds. That's the difference between where we were and where we're going. So the next 20 years, what are they gonna look like for employment, healthcare, retail, financial, energy, robotics? What are we gonna see? So let's go through it. Employment, artificial intelligence. IBM's Watson is already beating humans at chess, at Go, at Jeopardy. It's already beating us at things we thought AI would never beat us at. It's also helping us already to make our jobs easier. You know, IBM Watson partnered with H&R Block to create an AI algorithm that will help you do your taxes. Doesn't sound very sexy, but I tell you, it's really, really gonna save a lot of time and effort for people. You know, how many people watched Google's I.O. this week? Did you guys see the voice thing? Like, basically they created an algorithm that can make a phone call for you and book appointments for you. So now here's the thing about this. Call centers are already using AI to talk to you and chatbots and that sort of thing. But imagine when my AI calls their AI to book me a flight, or my AI calls there to get me a better rate on my cell phone. I don't want to have to call, you don't have to call, it's just AI. So it's going to be a race of AI. And if you look, for the last 10 years, Google's mantra has been mobile first. And now they're AI first. The next 5 years, PwC did a study and they asked people, what do you think AI is gonna replace? What jobs do you think it's gonna replace or change? And in the next 5 years, people saw AI as replacing tutors. So you can already go on Khan Academy and learn pretty much anything you want. You can go on the internet. How many people here get most of their knowledge from the internet now? Almost all of you. How many people get more knowledge from school than they do from the internet? Wow, okay. I think we need to fix that. Travel agents, tax preparers, we just saw that. These are all jobs, good high-paying jobs that AI is going to either help or replace, but it's gonna open up an enormous number of other jobs. Now, coding is, one job that everybody here should learn to do. Everybody should learn coding. It's like learning another language. But what happens in 20 years from now when code starts to code itself? And Microsoft's AI algorithm already takes code from different places and builds your programs for you. So that's gonna be disrupted. I think personally we're gonna need some sort of guaranteed minimum income or guaranteed basic income so that everybody has a certain amount of money at the beginning of the month to pay rent, buy food, and what that's gonna do is allow you to be creative, to take risks, to build businesses, and I think that's really gonna be something that we're gonna see in the next 20 years. What are we gonna see in healthcare in 20 years? Genomics, a huge, huge field right now where instead of treating people when they're sick, why don't we treat them before they get sick? Why don't we do preemptive medicine? And we can do that now with things like CRISPR, where we take genes and we can edit your genes. So we can actually create your genes to change how you respond to drugs and make you less susceptible to bacteria and viruses. How many people know who this is? Peter Diamandis is his name. He created the X Prize. It's a $10 million prize for anybody who could put a rocket into space and bring it down safely to be reused. The next X Prize is for a tricorder. And this is from Star Trek from the 60s. They had this thing where you waved it over a body and it would tell you, their heart rate, it would tell you their glucose, it could give you a bunch of things. So he's created a $10 million X Prize for the next tricorder, for the real tricorder in not. Now, Google announced at I.O. this week that they can use photographs of your retinas and using an AI algorithm, diagnose diabetic retinopathy better than a physician. And also, using that same image of your eye, using their AI algorithms, they can also diagnose cardiovascular disease before your doctors have even talked to you. It's incredible, incredible technology. There's a contact lens that you wear it and it gives you glucose readings to your phone, so you don't have to do a pinprick anymore. What about 3D printed body parts? This is gonna be a thing. We're looking out 20 years from now. You know, you lose a finger, maybe we can grow it back. They're already doing 3D printed body parts. What about transportation? We're already moving from I own this car and this is my car and it's parked in my driveway. I think we're gonna move away from that. We're gonna move to a sharing economy where one car can service 100 people. You know, there's 1 billion cars in the world right now. And I think what's gonna happen, Ford's introducing it, GM's introducing it, all the car companies, Tesla, they're all introducing car sharing so that we can share these cars. We don't need to have a car for every person. That doesn't make any sense anymore. It did, it was cool, it was awesome, but I think it's gonna change. We're also gonna see autonomous vehicles. Uber, Google, they're all working on autonomous vehicles, which, if you're born today, means you probably won't be able to drive. You guys will, because you're getting there. But people born today probably won't be able to drive. Autonomous vehicles will be so much more safe than humans that you won't be allowed to drive, but you will be allowed to fly. And this is the Volocopter. I actually saw this at CES this year, and it's basically a personalized drone that's fully autonomous, fully electric, and you get in, it takes 2 people, and it can fly you anywhere. Imagine going from your office to your house in a Volocopter. Pretty awesome, right? Communications. Facebook has set a goal to put 1 billion people into virtual reality. That's a huge number of people, but they're gonna do it. And there's some people from Facebook here in Oculus. What's the difference between VR and AR? VR, you put on a headset and it takes you to a totally virtual world. Augmented reality, you've probably seen in Snapchat when you put the faces and the masks and little jumping things. It puts a digital image on top of your real world. So that's the difference between the two. Facebook Spaces allows you to come and hang out with your friends, even though they may be miles and miles away or in different countries, and have really cool social experiences in VR. What about teleportation? Augmented reality will allow us to have meetings and talk to our friends as if they're standing right here. And if they're kind of in my way, it's like, oh, I need to see that, I can pick them up and move them over here. I can pick your avatar up and move it over here and have a conversation with you. Now, what's really freaky is some friends of mine are working on AI-driven avatars. So you don't even know if you're talking to a human or not. Check this out.
Hi, I'm
this
Mike.
is where we're going.
Kind of virtual mic, really. This is our digital human project, which is a collaboration of a whole lot of companies. Epic Games, 3Lateral, Cubic Motion, Tensun, the Wiki Human team, Sydney Uni, FX Guide, a whole bunch of people coming together to produce, well, a virtual human. And not only a virtual human, but one rendered in real time, puppeteered or driven in real time, rendered in real time, and not only that, but at 90 frames a second in stereo in VR.
That guy's not real. That's an avatar that they made. Look how real they're getting. It's still a little creepy. You're like, maybe I can, not a creepy guy. There's a thing called the uncanny valley, which means as you get too close to photoreal, you're like, he's not quite real, but they will get it. And you will not be able to tell what's an avatar and what's not. Anybody know who this guy is? Elon Musk. This guy is out there. I can tell you he's out there. He's got a plan to put people on Mars. He's got a plan to fully solarize the planet. But he also invested in a company called Neuralink, which is basically connecting your brain directly to the computer. And what that will do, instead of having a VR headset and a pair of haptic gloves and maybe a scent machine and maybe a haptic jacket, we're just gonna jack right into our brains and have any experience we want. That's pretty out there, but we're talking 20 years out, right? Education. How is education gonna change in the next 20 years? Are we all gonna sit around? This was a really cool art piece this guy did. He just took a bunch of pictures of him with a bunch of VR headsets. Are we gonna sit around in a classroom with VR headsets? Well, the answer is yes. This is taken last week in China by HTC Vive, and Alvin, the head of HTC Vive, sent me this picture. This is a class in China learning in VR, and what they're learning, this is Google. This is Google's Expedition. You're allowed to, basically go places, see underwater, go to space. You can experience these things in VR headsets. You can learn how to drive a crane in VR now. You can learn how to weld. You can learn emergency safety fire training in virtual reality. Put on the headset and it feels like you're right there. I tried this thing at CES this year where they put these things on my fingers and I reached out towards a flame and it buzzed my hand. And just the buzzing, because it was close to a flame, it actually scared me. So we're able to trick the brain and stuff. How is our shopping gonna change? Are we gonna walk through malls with headsets on? Probably not. Is it going to look like this? Are we going to have that kind of weird thing that we saw at the very beginning, this fully augmented world? I certainly hope not. It's up to you guys to decide that. I hope you don't go this way. You know, you can already try on makeup on your phone. You can try it on your computer. You know, how many people here have Snapchat? Is there anybody that doesn't have Snapchat? Oh my God. Okay, so we got like half a dozen people. Get them on Snapchat. I went to a talk from the CTO of Snapchat the other day, and there was 1 trillion snaps last year. 1 trillion. Think about that. That's 1,000 billion snaps. Crazy. You can already order supplies from your basement. This is the epitome of laziness. Rather than pull out your phone and go into Amazon and order some Tide Pods, and don't eat them, by the way, you can just hit the button and it comes to your door the next day. Awesome, right? This is the future of retail, and it's here now. Alibaba did 168 billion yen, which is $25 billion in one day. In one day, on Singles Day this year, 2017. How is our financial markets going to change? Cryptocurrencies are going to fundamentally change the way we pay, the way we interact with banks, the way we compensate each other. Cryptocurrencies are the new fundamental banking structure. And if you look at the top 5 coins listed in the world, they represent $250 billion in value right now. Think about that, $250 billion, and we're only at the beginning of blockchain. So I'm predicting 20 years out that we're going to have an end to cash. We're going to have a cashless society. Sweden has already said by 2020, no more cash. Because cash leads to corruption, it leads to theft, it leads to drug dealing, things like this that you can't trace. Cash is not traceable. Blockchain is fully traceable. So we're going to get rid of cash. Robots. Anybody know who this is? Sophia? Sophia's awesome. She actually did a keynote last week here in Toronto at the Ontario Centers of Excellence Conference. 2,000 people came to see a robot, AI-driven robot, speak on stage. And the guy who created it, Dr. Hansen, he appeared on stage as a hologram. So you have a robot on stage talking to a hologram. How meta is that? Check this out. This is Boston Dynamics robot that's allowing workers to be replaced with robots so they can do things. Now, I'm not sure why this guy is making this robot mad, but I can tell you that one day that robot's gonna just smack him in the head, because this is just rude. What is he doing? Stop that. How many people want a mech warrior, right? That's so cool. They're actually building a mech warrior that you can sit in and pilot. I don't know why, just really cool. Energy. We must find a way to power the world without coal, without oil, without gas. We must find sustainable resources for the world. Solar panels are getting more efficient. There's huge solar farms going up around the world. There's wind farms. There's nuclear fission. We got to figure this out. Nuclear fusion, rather. We have to figure out cold fusion. One of you guys got to figure this out, because if we can figure out sustainable, renewable energy, there's nothing we can't do. There's a company in Africa, Ethiopia. There's a huge garbage problem in Ethiopia. And so somebody said, hey, what if we burn the garbage, collect the carbon dioxide? So what they do is they burn the garbage, which boils water, which turns a turbine, which creates electricity. So they're creating electricity from garbage. Then what they do is they collect all the carbon dioxide and the soot, and they pack it together into bricks for building materials. Incredible, right? And the only output is water. Anybody know what this is? It's a quantum computer. Quantum computers will allow us to solve the world's hardest problems much faster. They're exponentially faster, but they have to be kept at 4 degrees Kelvin, which is really cold. We got to solve this problem too, and somebody in this room is going to solve that problem. I talked about this guy, Elon Musk, earlier. Not only did he make PayPal, forget PayPal, he made Tesla, Solar City. He's making Neuralink, SpaceX, Hyperloop, and The Boring Company. If you think that you're busy at school, you can imagine what his day is like. So don't just focus on one thing. You can solve all sorts of problems, and this guy's proving it. What's our food situation gonna look like? We're gonna have vertical farming, because farming around in land uses a lot of water, a lot, okay? And we're talking, for an almond, for a pound of almonds, it's 100,000 liters of water. That's a lot of water to grow a pound of almonds. Vertical farming is more sustainable, it's easier to do, and you can have them in urban centers, so you can get fresh produce that has no pesticides, no antibiotics, all of these things. And the other thing that you're gonna see is lab-grown meat. Meat grown in a lab has no pesticides, no hormones, no antibiotics, and guess what? You didn't have to kill a cow to do it. That's coming. They're calling it, instead of lab-grown meat, they're calling it clean meat. And I believe in 20 years, we'll look back and go, wow, we kept chickens and cows in cages for meat. So I think we're gonna move to this. We're also gonna have 3D printed food. Awesome, right? A little food printer. I want a steak dinner, prints it out. It's gonna be awesome. But I do know one thing. The future is yours to create. It is your world to create. And what I would impress upon each and every one of you is find what it is you're passionate about and learn everything in the world that you can on it and build something for the future, but do so in an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable way. Thank you so much.